There is a quiet, unspoken loss happening all around us right now, and almost nobody is paying attention to it. We live in an era where we have more data, more connectivity, and more information at our fingertips than at any point in human history. We can map genomes, simulate entire universes with artificial intelligence, and look up any fact in less than 2 seconds. But here is the twist that will completely change how you look at modern society by the end of this video. While we've been busy upgrading our technology, we've quietly degraded our humanity. We have outsourced our brains, our instincts, and our fundamental survival skills to a network of servers. And in doing so, we have forgotten a massive library of human capability things that our parents and grandparents knew just a single generation ago. And the psychological toll of this collective amnesia? It's creating a world that is highly connected, yet profoundly fragile. If you belong to the generations that grew up before the digital takeover, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You remember a world where your brain had to operate differently. You didn't just consume life. You had to figure it out. You had to navigate physical spaces without a blue dot guiding you on a screen. You had to fix things when they broke, because you couldn't just order a cheap replacement with same-day delivery. You possess something called localized self-reliance. But today, society treats those deeply ingrained human skills like outdated software, like they don't matter anymore. But what if I told you that forgetting these things isn't just a natural part of progress? What if the loss of these skills is actively changing our brain chemistry, driving up anxiety, and stripping away our resilience? See, there is a fascinating concept in cognitive psychology known as cognitive offloading. It's a fancy term for a very simple and dangerous habit. It happens when we use physical objects or technology to reduce the mental effort needed to complete a task. Think about it. We no longer memorize phone numbers because our contacts list does it for us. We no longer remember routes because GPS tracks our every turn. We don't even sit with our own thoughts when we're bored. We immediately pull out a screen to fill the silence. But your brain doesn't just stay the same when you stop using it. It adapts. It trims away the pathways it thinks you no longer need. When you outsource your memory, your spatial awareness, and your problem solving to an algorithm, your brain literally rewires itself. A landmark study published in the journal Nature tracked how structural changes occur in the human brain based on navigation. Researchers looked at London taxi drivers who have to memorize thousands of streets and landmarks. They found that these drivers had a significantly larger hippocampus. But guess what happens when we rely entirely on GPS? Studies show that the activity in the hippocampus drops to near zero. We aren't just letting our phones do the work. We are actively shrinking our capacity to map and understand the physical world around us. This shift has created what sociologists call a high-dependency environment. A generation ago, life was structured around a completely different set of psychological rules. Let's paint a picture of an average afternoon in 1982. Your car breaks down on a rural road. There is no cell service because cell phones don't exist. There is no roadside assistance app. You are truly, completely on your own. What did you do? You didn't panic. You opened the hood. You checked the radiator, the battery cables, or the spark plugs. If you couldn't fix it, you walked to the nearest farmhouse, knocked on a stranger's door, and asked to use their landline. Psychologically, that environment forced you to develop a high internal locus of control. That, when you grew up in a world where you had to solve your own microcrises, your brain internalized a powerful belief. No matter what goes wrong, I can handle it. Compare that to today. When the modern system glitches, when the app crashes, when the internet goes down, when the delivery is late, people feel an immediate surge of helplessness. Because we have centralized our survival, we have externalized our sense of control. When the technology fails, we feel utterly powerless. And that helplessness is fuel for the modern anxiety epidemic. The generations that came before us didn't just know how to navigate physical space, they knew how to navigate physical reality. They had a tangible relationship with the world. Think about the sheer volume of practical knowledge that has vanished in less than 40 years. Knowing how to preserve food, understanding the weather patterns by looking at the clouds, reading a physical map, fixing a leaking pipe with a wrench instead of calling an expensive specialist or buying a whole new fixture. Understanding basic mechanics, carpentry, and sewing. These weren't specialized hobbies for survivalists. They were just standard baseline skills for being an adult. Cognitive scientists point out that when you work with your hands, when you interact with the physical laws of gravity, resistance, torque, and material properties, you engage in something called embodied cognition. This is the theory that our motor skills, our senses, and our physical actions are deeply intertwined with our highest cognitive functions. When you learn how to handle tools, grow things, or fix mechanical objects, you aren't just learning a manual trade. You are teaching your mind patience, deep focus, and systemic thinking. You learn that problems require diagnostic logic. You can't just swipe away a stripped screw or refresh a broken engine block. You have to sit with the frustration. You have to think 3 steps ahead. But we have shifted into an era of frictionless living. Everything is designed to happen with a single click. And while convenience feels like a victory, it has a dark side. When you eliminate all friction from life, you also eliminate the exact mechanism that builds psychological resilience. Think back to your childhood or the stories of your parents. Remember the sheer weight of patience that used to be required just to exist. If you wanted to know a fact, you didn't Google it. You walked to the library, looked through card catalogue drawers, pulled down a massive encyclopedia, and searched the indexes. If the library didn't have it, you had to wait or ask someone who knew. If you ordered something from a catalogue, it didn't arrive tomorrow morning. The fine print said, "Please allow 6 to 8 weeks for delivery." And you waited, without tracking numbers, without updates. You just lived your life until a box showed up on your porch. If you wanted to listen to your favorite song, you sat by the radio for hours with your fingers resting on the record and pause buttons of a cassette deck, waiting for the DJ to play it so you could capture it. Psychologists look at that era and see a massive, population-wide training ground for delayed gratification. Your brain was trained from infancy to accept that good things take time, effort, and discomfort. Today, we live in an instant gratification loop. Dopamine hits are delivered instantly, around the clock. If a video doesn't grab us in 3 seconds, we swipe. If an article requires 10 minutes of reading, we ask an AI for a bulleted summary. Our attention spans have broken down, and our tolerance for frustration has plummeted. We have become incredibly impatient, easily overwhelmed, and emotionally fragile because our brains are no longer conditioned to handle the natural delays and discomforts of real life. And there is an even deeper, more heartbreaking loss that humanity has suffered in this transition. We have forgotten how to be alone with ourselves. Before smartphones, boredom was a constant companion. You stood in line at the grocery store, and you just looked at the people around you. You sat on a bus, looked out the window, and watched the trees go by. You laid on your bedroom floor and listened to an entire vinyl record, staring at the ceiling. In those moments of quiet, empty space, your brain defaulted to a specific network of regions called the default mode network. This network lights up when a human being is daydreaming, reflecting on the past, thinking about the future, or processing their own identity. The default mode network is the birthplace of deep creativity, self-awareness, and emotional processing. It is where you make sense of your anxieties, where you heal from heartbreaks, and where you figure out who you actually are away from the noise of the world. But today, we have completely eradicated boredom. The very millisecond our minds drift toward an empty space, we fill it with a digital distraction. We scroll, we watch, we listen. We never allow our brains to enter the default mode network. And because we never process our emotions in the quiet spaces, those emotions pile up in the shadows of our minds. We are running away from our own thoughts, and it is making us profoundly lonely, anxious, and disconnected from our inner selves. The old generations knew how to sit in a room alone without feeling lonely. They knew how to find peace in quiet tasks. They possessed an inner stillness that the modern world has largely lost. So, where does that leave us today? The point of recognizing this shift isn't to look back with empty, bittersweet nostalgia. It's not about claiming the past was perfect. It certainly wasn't. Progress has given us medical breakthroughs, global communication, and comforts that our ancestors could only dream of. But true wisdom lies in realizing that progress shouldn't mean abandonment. We can embrace the future without discarding the hard-won wisdom of the past. The previous generations left behind a blueprint for mental durability. They showed us that true strength doesn't come from the tools you own, but from the capabilities you carry inside your own mind. They proved that you can be independent, deeply resourceful, and quietly content without needing constant external noise and digital validation. They are the living proof that humanity is at its best when we are active participants in reality, not just passive consumers of data. If this message resonated with you, if you remember that world, or if you feel the deep urge to reclaim those lost human instincts, do me a small favor and hit that like button right now. It helps the algorithm share this video with others who need to hear this message, helping us bring these vital conversations back to light. And if you want to keep exploring these deep dives into human psychology, history, and what it truly means to live a meaningful life in the modern world, make sure to subscribe to this channel and turn on that notification bell. We have an incredible lineup of videos coming up that examine the hidden forces shaping our minds, our relationships, and our culture. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share one specific thing you think our modern world has forgotten. What is a skill, a habit, or a piece of wisdom from your parents or grandparents that you wish we still valued today? Let's build a space to honor and remember those lessons together. If you know someone who needs a reminder of their own resilience, or someone who loves these deep historical reflections, share this video with them. Text it, email it, or post it. Sometimes, reminding someone of what we used to know is the best way to help them navigate where we are going. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next deep dive. Until then, remember, technology is an incredible servant, but a terrible master. Keep your hands dirty, keep your mind sharp, and never forget what makes you truly human. Take care.